Hi guys, it's Nana here and you're welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video, we'll be discussing a very essential thing that we need to know in order to build wealth in the long run, and that is that savings alone might not necessarily make you rich over time. And I know how controversial this position is. However, if you're to hear me out for a couple of minutes, you will understand exactly where I'm coming from. In The Richest Man in Babylon, written by George S. Clason, the king of Babylon summoned the richest man in Babylon, and that was Akkad. And he asked him to teach a couple of men in Babylon how to make wealth. Now, the first thing that he went on to tell them to take notice of is the fact that 1/10 of everything that you earn at the end of the month is yours to keep, which means that 10% of every income and 10% of every revenue that comes into any household at the end of the month is yours to keep. That is, it should be set aside in a form of savings. However, he goes on to say that savings alone wouldn't make you wealthy over time. And so instead of saving, try and then put your money into use. Try and let your money work for you and then realize some returns over time. So how then do you go on to let your money work for you? And in this video, we'll be sharing some of the key concepts and the key things that you need to highlight in your life in order to take advantage of investing and then growing your money exponentially over time. And for the avoidance of doubt, let's define some key concepts in this video, and that is savings. So savings simply means setting aside a portion of your income for any future gains or any future goal that you may have. And an investment in this case is you going on to purchase any assets that have the potential of returning some amount of money in the near future. So that is a basic definition of savings and investment for the purpose of this video. However, there is another concept that we need to consider, which is the concept of inflation. So inflation in economics simply means that the general rise in the price of goods and services within an economy. And inflation is one of the greatest reasons why you shouldn't prioritize savings over investment. Because over time, what inflation does is that it diminishes your purchasing power, or it reduces the amount of money that you have saved in your bank account. And this brings us to the first reason why we should prioritize investing over savings, and that is simply because inflation erodes our purchasing power over time, or it reduces simply the amount of goods that we can purchase over time, simply because the prices of goods and services rise over time. For instance, at the time that I was recording this video, the current inflation rate in the US is 2.4% and then 2.6% in the UK. However, the average interest rate on your savings in the US is 0.41% and 2.45% in the UK, which simply means that for every $1,000 that you're saving, you're losing $20. And that might not sound like enough for you until you move the figure further to $10,000, which simply means that you're losing around about $200 for every $10,000 that you put in a US bank. In the UK, the issue is no different either, which means that if you're putting £1,000 aside into your savings, you're losing round about £15 per every £1,000 that you put in there. Now let's take the figure higher to £10,000. If it goes to £10,000, you're losing round about £150 every year just by keeping money in your bank account. So how then can you protect your money against the concept of inflation? We'll come there later on in this video. Hang on. And this brings us to the second point, which is that savings can actually ensure financial stability. However, the only true way to building and sustaining wealth is through investment. For example, if you're to invest $500 every single month in the S&P 500 for the next 30 years, you're likely to amass round about $720,000 at the end of the 30-year period. However, if you're to put $500 into a savings account every single month for the next 30 years, you're likely to amass around about $180,000 at the end of the 30-year period. Look at the difference in there. You're looking at around about $500,000 as a result of investment into the stock market, or taking advantage of the 8% annual returns on the stock market. So the savings figure is 180. However, the investment figure after the 30-year period is $720,000. So that is clear. It points to you that savings alone wouldn't help you to get to the figure that you really want to get to, or probably it would get you there in the slowest pace that you can ever imagine. However, investment will take you there faster, and more importantly, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is to ensure the discipline of contributing $500 every single month and then taking advantage of the average annual return of 8% in the stock market in order for you to build wealth over time. And this brings us to the third point, which is that savings accounts literally pay nothing. And so putting money there, like I've said the example earlier, makes you lose money. In the case of $10,000, you're losing around about $200 for every $10,000 deposit into your savings account. In the UK, you're losing around about £150, the equivalent in the UK, when you put money that is £10,000 into your savings account. So why then would you not take advantage of investment and then going on to put money into an investment account, which would return 8% annually on average, and then ensure or put you or take you a step further towards the attainment of your financial goals? This brings us to the last point, which is that investing actually helps you to take advantage of the concept of passive income. So investing in the stock market would realize an annual return of 8% holding all other factors constant. That is, if you are to buy into an index fund in the stock market. And sometimes people feel like it is very difficult for you to start investing, but it's actually very easy. I have a video on investing for beginners, which I'll link down in the description. It is one of the easiest ways that you can actually go on to get your money to return a couple of income for you, and then try as much as possible to position you towards the attainment of your financial goals. Now, mind you, this video is not in any way trying to get you discouraged insofar as saving is concerned. However, we're only trying to highlight the impact of savings as opposed to investing and taking advantage of everything going on within an economy. And so the truth is, the wealthy people out there have on average 7 streams of income, and every one of them have saved and then invested in the stock market, which helps them over the long run to build and compound their returns over the years. So that is something that you may want to do if you've really set out to go ahead and then pursue your financial goals. As opposed to saving, try and then invest. However, before you go on to invest, make sure you've saved at least 3 to 6 months of your expenses, and that would serve as an emergency fund that you can fall back on, so that in the case of any unfortunate incident or unfortunate circumstance in the near future, you know that you're cushioned financially. Thank you for spending time with me, and I hope this helps your finances. Now, I hope you found value in this video. In the long run, I'll be shooting a couple of videos explaining key concepts and how you can take advantage of situations within the economy in order to build wealth. And so you might want to like or subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Thank you.